Mr. Speaker, about the only impact that speech made on this particular debate was to destroy James Shaw's chances of becoming the next co-leader of the National Party, of the Green Party. He could well become the next co-leader of the National Party too. Mr. Speaker, Craig Foss rants and raves about the extra $100 million to protect biosecurity that this new tax that they're introducing is going to raise. What he didn't say was that the national government cut funding from biosecurity in the first place. So this new tax they're introducing is to restore cuts that they made before, to restore funding for things that were previously funded out of general taxation. Now they're introducing extra taxes to pay for something that they cut previously. That is what this government are all about. So I want to talk about this. Of course, no new taxes. John Key and Bill English went around the country promising New Zealanders at the last election. But actually, there was another part of this. There was another part of this that's very important. Because look at the little bubble above. Look at the little bubble above that. It says a strong economy means no new taxes. So which bit did they break? Which promise did they break? All of them, probably both of them, because they're delivering a new tax, so they've clearly broken that promise. A strong economy. They haven't delivered on that one either. They've broken that promise too. This is a government that's breaking all of its pre-election promises. No new taxes, that's not true. This is the third of 3 new taxes introduced in this budget alone. Their first budget since the election, and it's the first set of broken promises. And of course, we know the National Party can't be trusted at their word, because let's just go back to less than a year ago, or just on a year ago, when John Key flew to the UK to get them, at the taxpayers' expense, flew to the UK without paying a tax on the way in or the way out, without paying this tax on the way in or the way out, I should say. He flew to the UK to encourage them to remove the taxes that they have on Kiwi passengers going in and out of the UK, and he called them taxes. Prime Minister and Tourism Minister John Key has welcomed the British government's decision to reduce taxes for passengers' flights to New Zealand. Quote, "I have consistently advocated for such a change," was what John Key said, "which will benefit travelling New Zealanders and encourage more tourists to come to New Zealand." So only a year ago, John Key was arguing that another government should be reducing its taxes to encourage people to come to New Zealand. And how's he responded in kind? By whacking our own taxes up on them in this year's budget. Of course, we don't know how much that's going to be. Now, of course, the tax changes that were made in the UK, which were welcomed by the New Zealand government, reduced the cost to the travelling public of about $50. Now, we don't know how much this levy is going to be, because first we were told it was only going to be about $16, then we were told it was only going to be about $20, then we were told it was only going to be about $22, and that's all in the space of a couple of hours. I tell you what, the longer this debate goes, it'll get to $50 before midnight at the rate that their government are going over on that side of the House. When they say that there was going to be no new taxes, why didn't they tell New Zealanders that there were a whole lot of riders on that? They were just going to try and call them something else and pretend they weren't actually taxes, because they can dress it up as a levy, but it's actually a tax. And as for the reassurances that, oh, this is a levy, it's going to be ring-fenced, it's going to go into a fund, it's not about ensuring that the government gets back into surplus, has no implications for that whatsoever. That's, of course, what people at governments for years have been arguing about ACC, and yet they've kept ACC levies high, artificially high, in order to try and get to create the illusion of a government surplus when we know that they're not going to be able to deliver one. They're certainly not going to deliver one this year, and it's highly unlikely that they're going to be able to deliver one next year, because we know that the Treasury have said that unless the price of milk rebounds, the surplus next year is in doubt as well. So we've got them saying that this is not a new tax. We know the Oxford English Dictionary describes a levy as a tax raised by levying, which of course is a little bit like John Key's promise that he wasn't going to increase GST. He probably argued that wasn't a tax either. But he increased GST despite saying that making a specific promise down the barrel of the camera that he wasn't going to raise GST, and he did exactly that. So who is this new levy going to apply to? Is it going to apply to everybody travelling across the border in New Zealand? Will there be any exemption? What about the people who barge their way through security without going through the appropriate channels? Will this apply to Jerry Brownlee? Because Jerry Brownlee bypasses security. Oh, we pick up the phone that he's broken off the desk and give him a call. But will Jerry Brownlee pay this particular levy? Will all of the people coming to New Zealand pay this levy? How can the current government be trusted to give factual information upon that? Mr. Speaker, this is yet another broken promise by this national government, and they are barely beginning this term in government. New Zealanders can expect many more broken promises from the national government, and I'm sure that is what we are going to see, because this government really have no major plan or vision for the future of this country. They're tinkering around the edges. They are dealing with little bits here and there, but they are not dealing with the big issues that are actually going to result in New Zealanders earning better incomes, having better jobs, being able to afford houses, and having a higher standard of living. That is not what the government are dealing with and trying to deliver in this budget, because they don't know how, because they haven't got any new ideas, they don't have a vision for the brighter future that they promised New Zealanders, and even if they did have the goal of delivering their brighter future, they just have no idea how to do it.
Yay, good speech.
I call